What's going on, guys? Nate Dogg here, and today I'm bringing you my Templar Tank for the Elder Scrolls Online Greymoor patch, the Guardian of Light. But before we get into it, I just want to let you all know, if you guys would take a moment of your time, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, so that way you guys can stay up to date with this build or any of my other content that I drop on my YouTube channel. Also, if you guys would take and go over to my Twitch account and also follow me there. But without further ado, let's dive into this build, starting off in our character sheet. This character has a max magicka of 19,700, max health sitting at 38,100, with a max stam at 24,500, with magicka recovery at 839, health recovery at 371, stam recovery at 886. Spell damage is sitting at 1,300, with a spell critical rating of 19%, weapon damage at 1,500, with a weapon critical sitting at 11.5% chance. Spell resistance is at 24,200 with physical resistance at 22,400 on the front bar. We also have a critical resistance of 1,300. But Nate, why do you have critical resistance if this is a PVE build? The reason we have this is because on Greymoor patch update, every character now gets a base critical resistance. That is why I have this. This is the base amount for critical resistance. But now going on the back bar, you can see that the spell resistance dropped down to 23,100 with physical resistance sitting at 21,300. Now we're going to buff up my guy staying on the back bar. Magicka recovery goes up to 1,000, health recovery goes to 433, stam recovery goes to 1,056. Spell resistance is at 31,000, physical resistance is at 29,200. Now we're going to buff up my guy and then go to the front bar. On the front bar, spell resistance goes to 32,100 and physical resistance goes to 30,300. Pretty close to cap on the spell resistance. But we can actually go a lot further with some of the sets I have that we will get to later in the video. So, for attributes, we have 18 points into magicka, 18 points into stam, and 28 points into health. But Nate, you're a tank. Why do you have points into magicka and stam and not all into health? The reason why I have 18 both in magic and stam is so that my pools for magicka and stam are at a good amount, so that way when I'm sending out resources to my group and allies, that way I can keep up both my magic and stam. Stam we're going to be using a lot for blocking and casting our other abilities. Magic will be more for our snap heal buttons and other magic abilities. Max health sitting at 38,000 is a very good spot to be sitting at for a tank for all content. So, going now over into the skills that I am running, starting on the front bar. First skill we have is actually our flex spot, but the one that I use is in the Dawn's Wrath skill line. It is the third ability to unlock, starts off as Backlash. We then morph it to Power of the Light. This is a sunlight that dooms an enemy, dealing 2,400 physical damage to them and copying their damage taken for 6 seconds, and release 20% of it back as additional physical damage to them. Max we can copy is 14,700. But Nate, you're a tank. Why are you dealing damage? Because we will want to deal some damage to the enemies to help out the group in the DPS a little bit. Granted, we're not going to do as much as a DPS or probably a healer does, but this doesn't hurt to help. Also, the big kicker here is down at the bottom here where it says the target that we apply this to is also afflicted with minor fracture and minor breach, reducing their physical and spell resistance by 1,300 for 9 seconds. Now, the reason why we use this is because all enemies in PvE content have a flat rate of 18,200 physical and spell resistance. By reducing the target's physical and spell resistance, we actually make it a lot easier for our DPS to cut through it. The lower your physical and spell resistance is, the harder the DPSs are going to hit. So by applying this, we're going to help our DPS out by hitting harder. Other things that we could use for this is actually we could go in the Adriatic Spear line. It is the fourth ability to unlock, starts off as Spear Shard. We then morph it to Luminous Shard. This deals 3,000 magicka damage that you can throw at them from the sky, and then it deals 261 magic damage every 1 second for 10 seconds. Not a whole lot of damage there, but the reason we want to use this one, or could use this one, is because activating Holy Shard synergy restores 3,900 magic or stam, whichever maximum is higher, so that way our DPS gets their resources back, or the healer gets resources back But then they also get an additional 1,900 Magicka or Stam, whichever maximum is lower, so that way they get that other resource up as well. If you don't like the stationary shards for a synergy, there is one that I'll get to a little later about that actually moves that people can activate a synergy to also restore their Magicka or Stam of their higher one. But first we're going to go into other ones. Other ones we can go into is in the Restoring Light skill line. It is the third ability to unlock, starts off as Restoring Aura, morph it to Radiant Aura. This one has a 28 meter radius, which you apply minor Magicka steal to all enemies around you for 24 seconds, causing us and our allies to restore 300 Magicka every 1 second when we're damaging them. Also, while slotted, we gain minor Fortitude, minor Endurance, and minor Intellect, increasing your health, Stam, and Magicka recovery by 10%. But Nate, the other morph gives you health and Stam back for every dead corpse that you siphon. Yes, it does, but the reason I ended up going with this one is because the group of guys that I usually play are all Magicka-based DPSs. So by me running Radiant Aura, I can actually help them keep their Magicka up while they're doing damage. So this is why I went this route. If you know that you're playing with more Stam-based DPSs, then yes, I'd probably suggest the other one instead of this one. But this is why I run Radiant Aura. Next one we could run in this spot is also in the Restoring Light. It's the fourth ability unlocked. Starts as its Cleaning Ritual. We want to then morph it to Extended Ritual. This cleans up to 5 harmful effects from ourselves immediately and heals us and nearby allies for 1,500 health every 2 seconds for 20 seconds in a 12 meter radius. Allies can also activate a synergy, Purify, to cleanse all harmful effects from themselves and heal for 3,900 health. The reason we run this is because somebody in the group should run Cleanse now and again. For certain dungeon content, you will want to cleanse, and this is easily for a Templar to use a cleanse for the group, so this could be a flex spot that you guys could switch out for your Power of the Light. Now, another ability we can also use here is now down into the Undaunted skill line. This is the one that I was talking about. It is the fifth ability to unlock. Starts as Necrit Orb. We then morph it to Energy Orb. This is a slowly floating healing orb that gives 575 health every half second to us and nearby allies. This is the one where I was talking about is a mobile one where if an ally activates Healing Combustion synergy, they cause an orb to explode and heal for 4,700 health to all friendly targets, and then they restore 3,900 Magicka or Stam to the ally, whichever maximum is higher. So this is the mobile way to give max Stam and max Magicka. If you use this one, the Luminous Shards is the stationary one. So, moving on to the next ability in our skill line. It is in the One-Hand and Shield skill line. It is the second ability to unlock. Starts off as Low Slash. We then morph it to Deep Slash. This we sweep lunge, dealing 3,800 physical damage to the enemy and all other nearby enemies. And we also reduce the movement speed of the enemies by 30% for 4 seconds. So here, when you got a group of mobs, we end up doing this, so it takes the mob a lot longer to spread out when you got them crowd control. On top of it, we also can inflict Minor Maim, which reduces the damage done by 15% for 12 seconds. So all enemies that you hit with this now reduce the damage they do by 15% to your group members and yourself, so it makes it a lot easier for you to tank, and it makes it a lot easier for your groups to survive. That's why I went with this morph. Well, why didn't you go with Heroic Slash? Heroic Slash is a good morph to go with, but the way how I'm running with the sets I'm running, Heroic Slash you get ulti-gen for whenever applying it. I already got something on my sets that actually give me easier to get ultimate or lower the cost of ultimate, so that's why I went with Deep Slash instead, because unlike a Templar or unlike a Dragon Knight, Templar doesn't have an area effect lunge in their Arson class, so they actually have to go to the One-Handed and Shield skill line. Dragon Knights have Dark Talons, which they can apply Minor Maim in their class. So this is why I went this route. Now, going over to the next skill that we have, it is down into the Fighter's Guild skill line. It is the first ability to unlock. Starts off as Silver Bolt. We morph it to Silver Leash. We fire a Drawn Guard crossbow hooking to pull an enemy to us dealing 3000 physical damage and reducing their movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds. Dragon Knights have a chain. Templars, we do not have a chain in our class, so this is our way of getting that chain, so we want to use this on all the ranged targets that we cannot get to. We want to crowd control all the melee fighters or up-range fighters, and then we want to use Silver Leash to grab all the ranged fighters to group them up a lot nicer, so it's a lot easier for our DPS to nuke them down. So, speaking of CC control, next ability we have that we're using is also in the Fighters Guild. It is the second ability to lock. Starts off as Circle of the Protection. We then morph it to Turn Evil. We brand the earth at our location, protecting us for 20 seconds for us and our allies in the area. Gain minor protection and minor endurance, which reduces the damage we take by 8%, so this makes us a lot tankier and a lot more survivable for the other group members, since they can take more damage, since it reduces the damage by 8% for them. And it increases the stam recovery by 10%, so if you got up close and personal people that are stam based, this will also give them recovery for their stam abilities. Also, upon activation, enemies in the area are feared for 4 seconds. So, how we want to go about using this is, we want to run into battle, or walk, and all the melee fighters, you basically want to try to get the biggest group of mobs you can that are melee, and you want to throw Turn Evil down. This will CC them or crowd control them for the 4 seconds. During this time, we will want to then use Silver Leash to pull all the other mobs to us, so that way we can group them a lot better for trash mobs and make it a lot easier for our DPS to nuke them instead of them running around all over the place trying to do this. So, Turn Evil first, then a Silver Leash, the range targets is what we want to do. Going into the next ability that we have is back up into the sword, one-handed, and shield skill line. It is the first ability to unlock, starts off as Puncture. We then morph it to Pierce Armor. We pierce the enemy, dealing 2,500 physical damage and taunting them to attack us for 15 seconds. This will be our major taunt. It is not the only taunt we have, but it is the taunt that we will be using most of the time. This also afflicts enemies with Minor Fracture and Minor Breach, reducing their physical and spell resistance by 5,280 for 15 seconds. But Nate, I thought you already had Fracture and Breach. I do have Fracture and Breach. Fracture and Breach is also on the Power of the Light, where it says afflict them with Minor Fracture and Minor Breach. But the key is you can stack Minor and Major together. So we got 13,000 or 1,300 here for 9 seconds, and then with Pierce Armor, we also got an additional 5,200 for the 15 seconds. So for 9 seconds, you can reduce the enemy target's physical and spell resistance by 6,600 for the 9-second duration of Power of the Light. We will want to stack this because the lower the enemy's physical and spell resistance is, the harder your DPSs are gonna hit. That's why we went with Pierce Armor, because I play with more magic-based DPSs, so this helps them with Major Breach. Breach is what gives them, reduces spell resistance. Now going over into our ultimate, this is a flex ultimate spot depending on how you want to play. I do change it up as I go. So, but this is the one I use most of the time. So the one I'm using is in the Restoring Light. It's the Rite of Passage. We then morph it to Remembrance. This only costs 100 ultimate. But we channel a healing orb for you and nearby allies for 5,800 health every 1 second for 4 seconds. But this has a basically 10-second duration, with grants us major protection, reducing the damage we take by 30% for the 10 seconds. So, by applying the Turn Evil down on this, and then using this, we can mitigate a lot more damage because we reduce the damage we take by a whopping 38% for the 10 seconds. As you can see, the note on the bottom is you cannot move while channeling, but you gain immunity to all disabling effects. This helps out a lot for certain points and times and bosses. However, you can actually move while channeling, because basically you roll dodge and then you're done, so you stop healing at that point, so you can move if you need be. But another ability that we could use here is in the Dawn's Wrath skill line. It is Nova. We then morph it to Solar Disturbance. This one deals 2,100 magic damage every 1 second for 10 seconds. This also applies to Major Main, reducing enemies' damage done by 30%. Major Main also persists on enemies who leave the Nova for 6 seconds. So if an enemy stays within this Nova for the full duration of the 10 seconds, they are reduce their damage done by 30% for actually 16 seconds because they did not leave. And when the solar disturbance is done, we have the damage reduced by 30%, and that's technically when they leave. So that's where I get the 16 seconds from, is solar disturbance leaves, they didn't leave the circle, so it's 16 seconds instead of 10. Also, allies near it can also use supernova synergy, dealing 5,500 magic damage to all enemies in the area and stun them for 2.5 seconds. So you can use this with a cost of 200 ultimate. The reason I don't really go with this one is because the 200 ultimate, I usually like to run something low and then something higher, but that's just my preference only. This is up to you if you want to use this one instead. Better group utilities will be here. So, going over now onto the back bar. First ability that we have is in the Restoring Light skill line. It is the fifth ability to unlock, starts off as Rune Focus. We then morph it to Restoring Focus. This creates a rune of protection. The rune gives us Major Resolve, increasing our physical and spell resistance by 5,200. Also recover 240 stamp every 1 second. Standing within this rune increases physical and spell resistance granted by 50%. This can be a little misleading. All this is misleading is you don't get 50%. Cast it on the ground. We're going to just stay on my back bar. Spell resistance is at 31,000, physical at 29,200. Now if we leave the rune, spell resistance at 28,400, physical is at 26,600. There is another ability that people are probably asking, why ain't you using the other ability called Immobilize? Or Unstoppable, I should say. So Unstoppable gives us this Major Resolve, increasing our physical and spell resistance by the 5,200 for 19 seconds. This one also grants us immunity to knockback and disabling effects for 6 seconds, but reduces our movement speed by 65%. My personal preference is I do not like to be hindered or reduced by anything, so if I cannot move faster for the 6 seconds and my movement speed is snapped by 65%, it doesn't allow me as a tank to get to the position that I like. Yes, the immunity to knockback and disabling effects for 6 seconds is nice, if you can time it right. If you can time it right, then I'd probably say maybe go with this one if you don't really care about stamina recovery. But the big kicker here is I'm going to now use this ability. Go back into our character sheet. We got 28,400 spell resistance. Physical resistance is at 26,600. But if you watched me as what I did last time is when I was actually using our Restoring Focus, just by applying it on the ground and standing within it, we actually get 31,000 spell resistance. The physical resistance goes to 29,200. We get an additional, instead of the 50% as the skill says at the bottom here, we actually are gain 8% bonus. We get 8% for actually standing within it. If we're not in it, we get the normal physical, and we get the normal Major Resolve, I should say, which just increases our physical and spell resistance by the flat 5,200. So standing in it, we get stamina recovery and we get more physical and spell resistance, making us a lot more tankier and a lot easier to hit the cap. So moving on into the next ability that we have, we're staying in the Restoring Light skill line. It is the first ability to unlock. It starts off as Rush Ceremony. We morph it to Honor the Dead. This heals ourselves and wounded allies in front of us for 6,400 health. Healing anyone who is below 75% health restores 60% of the ability's cost over 6 seconds as Magicka. This is a big kicker. We do not, this is our oh snap, we're about to die heal that we only use to get our Magicka recovery back, and we get bigger heals by the lower our health is. I'll show you later in the passives how that works, on why we use it when we're at lower health. So like I said, this is our oh snap heal when we need it, or if the group really needs heals too, that's why I then run Remembrance also. But Moving on to the next ability that we use, it is actually in the Adric Spear line. It is the 5th ability to unlock, starts off as Sun Shield. We then morph it to Radiant Ward. This gives us a damage shield that absorbs up to 12,300 damage for 6 seconds. This portion is based off of the ability off of max health. So the more higher our health is, the more damage, bigger this damage shield is. Then Nate, why didn't you put it all into health? Because, like I said earlier, we want enough resources so we can cast this. If you can see 3,600 magicka just for that, for just Radiant Ward, but also if you got to throw a heal on, we're using 4,200 max magicka. That's already 7,000, almost 8,000 magicka that we just used in just 2 abilities. That's why I put other stats into those. Also, on top of it, nearby enemies take 3,000 magicka damage when the shield is active, and enemies hit increase the shield strength by 9%, so the shield will get stronger the more enemies you have around you. Now, moving over into the next ability that we have is down back into the Undaunted skill line. It is the 4th ability to unlock. Starts off as Bone Shield, we then morph it to Bone Surge. This gains us another damage shield that absorbs up to 13,200 damage for 6 seconds. This ability is scaled off of our max health. Now Nate, you just were running a damage shield. Why are you running 2? Because unlike a Dragonite, Templar Tanks do not have utilities to actually give your allies damage shield. There's a thing that Dragonites have called Igneous Shield that can give to group members that last for 6 seconds. Templars do not have things like this. So, the only way we can apply this is if an ally actually applies Final Surge, granting an ally and up to 5 other allies a damage shield that absorbs up to 32% of their max health for 6 seconds. Also, on top of it, we gain them Major Vitality, increasing their healing received by 30%. This is our way to help give our allies a shield, and then we're also giving them synergies as well. This is our way of doing it. Also, in some dungeons, you actually have bosses that actually can mitigate magicka cost ability. So by only running a magicka shield, if you need that shield, you can still run it with a stam-based shield. Anyways, moving on to the next ability that we have is actually in the Undaunted skill line. It is the 3rd ability to unlock. It starts out as Inner Fire. We then morph it to Inner Rage. This ignites the fire of hate on an enemy's heart, dealing 2,000 magic damage, and we taunt them to attack us for 15 seconds. This is a range taunt up to 28 meters. We can range taunt enemies. This will be important in some dungeons, especially like the Imperial City Prison, where you are on the final boss, the Lord Warden, and you will need to fight the Shades. If you are running around, you're going to lose your stam, and if you have to poke every Shade, you're going to lose time. This can reach all the Shades just by standing in a little circle. You can sit there and actually taunt all 4 Shades to attack you. This is why we use this one. Also, enemies can activate a Radiant Surge, dealing 4,000 magicka damage over them for 3 seconds, and then an additional 4,600 magicka damage to them and other nearby allies. So we can hit other allies or enemies that are next to him. Now, going for the ultimate here. It is in the Assault skill line. It starts off as Warhorn. We want to morph it to Aggressive Warhorn with a cost of 200 ultimate. This will increase ourselves and our group members max magicka and max stam by 10% for 30 seconds. This helps out so that DPS can cast more abilities, magicka guys can cast more abilities, and just for everyone else, more utilities and resources. Also, on top of it, we give our allies Major Force, increasing their critical damage by 15% for 10 seconds. When they hit crit, they're going to hit a lot harder. This is why we run this one. If you haven't got the Assault skill line, or you prefer not to, this is probably where then I would probably use the Solar Disturbance morph. Or Ultimate, I should say. That is back in the Dawn's Wrath skill line, because this one will be the same cost of 200 ultimate, and this one will reduce enemies' damage done by 30% if you do not run Warhorn. But most tanks prefer to run a Warhorn, or the healer runs Warhorn. Somebody in the group does, it's usually the tank or the healer. So, run Warhorn, but if you prefer not running Warhorn, or if the healer tells you they're going to run the Warhorn, then you run Solar Disturbance, if you do not want to double stack on the Warhorn. So anyways, going over now into our passives, starting in the Adric Spear skill line. First passive we have is Piercing Spirit. This increases our critical damage by 10%, and then increase the damage done to blocking targets by 10%. This is with an Adriatic Spear ability slotted, so on our back bar, we have one here, so we're going to end up increasing the damage done to blocking targets by 10%. Critical damage, we'd be lucky if we actually hit crit per stand base, so this is just a little flavor here. Next passive we have is Spear of Wall. When activating an Adriatic Spear, we gain minor protection for 6 seconds, reducing damage taken by 8%. Yes, this is the same minor protection that Turn Evil gives us on my left bumper, so you cannot stack these on top of each other. However, if you do not have enough stamina to lay down your Turn Evil, then we can get it our minor protection for 6 seconds by casting Radiant Ward. Next passive we have is Burning Light. When we deal damage with an Adriatic Spear ability, we have a 25% chance to deal additional 2,800 physical or 2,300 magic damage. It's based off of whichever one's higher, and this can occur every half a second. But you don't have any damage one. Yes, we do have a damage one in the Radiant Ward. Radiant Ward, nearby enemies take 3,000 magic damage when you use it. So we got a 25% chance to actually deal more damage when we apply Radiant Ward to ourselves. Next passive we have is Balanced Warrior, increasing the weapon damage of 6% and spell resistance by 2,600. Weapon damage as a tank, we don't really have much there, but still it helps out the group a little bit. The thing we really like though is spell resistance. The spell resistance makes us a lot tankier and a lot easier to hit our cap. Do you need cap? No, you don't need cap, but I like having cap because I want to get the maximum amount of mitigation I can on my tank. Going into Dawn's Wrath passives, we have Enduring Ray, which increases the duration of our Sunfire, Eclipse, Solar Flare, and Nova abilities by 2 seconds. Yes, I'm not running any of these, but however, when I do run them, that way I make sure my Nova lasts is for the 10 seconds because of this Enduring Ray. If you guys prefer to run that one instead, this is the one you'll want to get to make it last longer. Next passive we have is Prism. Casting a Dawn's Wrath ability generates 3 ultimate. This effect can occur every 6 seconds. So, by running the power of the light, you can see the duration of this is 6 seconds. So by casting this and letting it run its course all the way through, we get 3 ultimate for just casting it. So it lasts for 6 seconds. In Prism, we can generate 3 more ultimate every 6 seconds. So by letting it run out, cast it again, we get 3 ultimate again. This will be our way to get ultimate on this character, one way at least. Next passive we have is Illuminate. Casting a Dawn's Wrath ability grants minor sorcery to us and our group members for 20 seconds, increasing their spell damage done by 10%. The reason we run this is we want this, and that's why I run Power of the Light, because by casting that, now I'm applying minor sorcery, and the people I play with, DPSs especially, are all Magicka-based characters, so I'm increasing their spell damage by 10%. This will be a very important passive you will want to get if your class or your group is running a lot of Magicka DPS. Next passive we have is Restoring Spirit. This reduces health, Magicka, stam, and ulti cost of our abilities by 5%. That is why my Remembrance and Aggressive Warhorn is down to only 100 and 200 ultimate, is because of this passive right here. Plus other passives that we'll get to as we go along. Now over into the Restoring Light. We got Mending. Increases our healing effect from Restoring Light abilities by 12% in portion of the severity of target's wounds. So the lower the health is, the more this Restoring Light ability will heal stronger. So that's why it's our O snap button. We need a heal, is why we only use it when we're at low health, because we're then proc Mending. Next passive we have is Sacred Ground. When we're channeling our Cleansing Ritual, Rune Focus, or Rite of Passage area effect, and up to 4 seconds after leaving them, we gain minor mending, increasing our healing done by 8%. This is why I also run the Rune Focus, because this applies to Sacred Ground. When we cast this on the ground and while standing in it, and up to 8 seconds after leaving it, or 4 seconds after leaving it, we get major mending. So we will want to cast this before we cast our O Snap heal, because when we do that, then our heals are going to just stack on top of the severity of our wounds. Also, we increase the amount of damage we can block by 10% for the duration. So Sacred Restoring Focus lasts for 20 seconds, so we get increase our blocking by 10% for the 20 seconds, along with other stacks that we can block more, making us very tanky. Next passive we have is Light Weaver. This increases the duration of a Restoring Aura by 20%. Healing Ritual grants 2 ultimate to allies healed under 60% health. And Channel Rite of Passage grants us 16,500 physical and spell resistance. So yes, we easily hit cap with the channeling the Rite of Passage or Remembrance. That helps, and we increase the duration of Restoring Aura by 20%. So that's why our Restoring Aura or our Rune Focus is up a lot higher. Last passive we have here is Master Ritual, which increases our resurrection speed by 20%. Very good thing for a tank, because sometimes you end up being the very last guy. Since you are the tankiest, you end up being the last guy, so increasing your resurrection speed a lot easier for you to get allies up quicker. And restoring allies returned with 100% more health, so they got more health, so they can actually survive a couple hits if they are in a stupid AoE area effect. This also gives us a 50 chance to fill an empty soul gem after each successful resurrection, so we actually have a chance to actually not use a soul gem when we resurrect allies if we have an empty soul gem on us. Now going over to the one-handed shield, since this is the only weapons we have on both bars. First passive we have is Fortress, reduce the standard cost of our one-handed shield abilities by 15%, and we also reduce the cost of blocking by 36%. We will want a lot of reduce the cost of blocking. The lower the cost that we have on blocking, the better sustain we have. Next passive we have is Sword and Board, increase the weapon damage by 5%. Nothing really too much there, it can help out with DPS a little bit, but you're not going to be big deeps, you're going to be the very little deeps. Also the amount of damage you can block by 20%. Helps out a lot for the tank. Deadly Bash, improve our standard bash attacks, causing them to deal 1,500 more damage and cost 40% less. This helps a lot, especially when you have to interrupt enemies who are channeling stuff. That way we don't lose all of our stam on just bashing them. Deflect Bolt. This increases the amount of damage we can block from projectiles and range attacks by 14%. Projectiles and range attacks. Projectiles mean basically any magicka-based abilities cast at us, and range is, of course, archer. So we block more from them, on top of the amount of damage we can block. So, last one we have is Battlefield Mobility. Reduce the movement speed penalty of Brace. The current penalty is 36%. So basically what that means is your speed for blocking in this and holding up your shield. Moving on into light armor, we are running a 5-1-1 ratio. So we have 5 heavy, 1 medium, and 1 light. So that way we get bigger buffs on other passives we'll get to later. So we have Grace here, which reduces the effectiveness of snares applied to us by 4% and reduce the cost of sprint by 3%. Advocate, we increase our magicka recovery by 4% and reduce the magicka cost of our abilities by 2%. Spell Ward, this increases our spell resistance by 363 for each piece of light armor equipped. We do not want these last ones because these ones require 5 pieces or more of light armor. Over into medium armor, we have Dexterity, increasing our weapon critical rating by 328. This is why my weapon critical is at 11.5. That little goofy number is because of this passive here. Windwalker gives us stam recovery by 4% and reduces the cost of our stam abilities by 2%. Improved Sneaking, you guys can use this if you want to. I just felt it was a waste to put skill points in here. That's why I did not put any into this. This only reduces the cost of sneak and reduces the detection area of sneaking by 3%. Agility, this one requires 5 pieces or more of armor in order to use it, of medium armor. Athletics, this will increase our movement speed bonus of sprint by 3% and then reduce the roll dodge cost by 4%. Roll dodge cost is important because sometimes as a tank you just got to get out of danger, and this is a good way to not have to use all your stam just to use a roll dodge. Now into the heavy armor skill line, we have Resolve, which increases our physical and spell resistance by 1,800 for all the pieces we're wearing. Constitution, increase our health recovery by 20%. Also, we restore 541 magic and stam when we take damage for each piece of heavy armor equipped. This effect can only occur once every 4 seconds. When we're in 5, that's where I get the 541. Juggernaut, this increases our max health by 10%. Retelevised, this increases our magical and stam of our heavy attacks restored by 25%. Since we are wearing 5 pieces or more, we benefit from this one, and we're only going to get stam recovery back because we're only using stam based attacks with the sword and board that is a stam weapon. So we're only going to get stam back for recovery by 25% more there. Rapid Mending, this increases our healing received by 8%, so when healers are healing us, their heals will be stronger because we got healing received by 8%. Very good thing for a tank to have. Always get Rapid Mending. Now over into the Fighters Guild. First passive we have is Intimidating Present. This allows us to intimidate NPCs, very good for questing, and also on top of it reduces stamina cost of our Fighters Guild abilities by 15%. We are running 2 of them. We will want this. Slayer, increasing our weapon damage by 6% for each Fighter Guild ability slot. On our front bar we have Silver Leash and Turn Evil. On our back bar we have none, so we don't get no bonuses there. Banish the Wicked, we generate 9 ultimate when we kill Undead, Jadra, or Werewolf. Very nice little thing to have. Granted, what are the chances that we're going to get the final kill on a guy? Not very likely, but just in the off chance we do, this is a very good thing to have. And in PvE content on your dungeons, there are a lot of Undead, Daedra, and Werewolves to fight. Skill Tracker, our Fighter Guild ability to deal additional 20% more damage to the Undead, Daedra, or Werewolf. This will only be applied on the Silver Leash since this is the only one that does a little bit of damage. Turn Evil only fears and reduces the damage you take by 8% and gives you stam recovery. Over to the Mage's skill, I got Persuasive Will. This is only for questing purposes only, since we have no abilities in Mage's skills, we can skip that one. In the Undaunted skill line, you will want to get these passives as soon as you can, so level up your Undaunted abilities. While activating an ally synergy, restore 4% of max health, stam, and magicka, so we get 1,700 health, 983 stam, and 790 magicka. So by doing this, and for us actually giving out synergies, if your allies also have this, they get 4% of their max health, stam, and magicka. So that's why it's important for also DPSs and healers out there to get the Undaunted command. We're giving you guys a lot of opportunities to proc synergies as this tank. Last passive we have here is Undaunted Metal. This increases our max health, stam, and magicka by 6% since we are wearing at least 1 piece of heavy, 1 piece of medium, and 1 piece of light. This is the only way that we're going to be able to get our 6%. If you're only wearing heavy and medium, then you're only going to get 4%. And vice versa of only heavy and light. Or if you're just wearing all heavy, you're only going to get the whopping 2% on your health, magicka, and stam. We don't need any passives in the assault because this is only applied for PvP content. And the race I am the Imperial. Imperial gives us toughness, which increases our max health by 2,000. Very good thing to have for a tank. You need health. Also, Imperial Metal, that increases our max stam by 2,000. We will be using stam, and that's why we want stam as our biggest one, is because we use a lot of block, and when we activate synergies that give us resource back, it's always based off the highest resource. So that's why we want stam higher than magicka also. So Imperial Metal gives us stam, toughness gives us health. Now, Red Diamond, reduce the cost of all your abilities by 3%. When it means all, it also means ultimate. So, with our Dawn's Wrath ability passive that we have, we reduce the cost of our ulties and our other abilities by 5%. This now gets further reduced by Red Diamond by an additional 3%. Also, nice thing about Red Diamond is when you deal direct damage, we can heal ourselves for 382 health and restore 333 magicka and stam every 5 seconds. So, on top of all the, by taking damage, we get 500 health, magicka, and stam, or we get, by taking damage we get stam and magicka, and now by dealing damage we also get magic and stam. So this is how we kind of keep our resources in balance. So what other races would I suggest? Nord would be a very good option. Nord gives us more physical and spell resistance, so I might end up changing some sets that I'm wearing to accommodate more of the Nord, since they also have the ulti gen on top of them, since I will not be needing the ulti gen per se on a Nord, but I need the ulti-gen kind of on a Templar or on the Imperial, since they don't have passives like that. Argonian, if you really want to be that, pop that potion and get all the resources back to keep your resources up. If you are struggling with resources, that would be a very good one to use. Now going over into Alchemy. Why into Alchemy? Because we have a passive called Medicinal Use. When we use a potion, results last 30% longer. This is a very key passive to have. Potions at base, if you do not have anything in medicinal use, last for 36 seconds with a 45-second cooldown. Potions give resources back, and they also give you endurance, intellect, and recovery. They increase your recovery rate. So by having 3 out of 3 on this for 30% longer, your potions last for 47 seconds with a cooldown still at 45 seconds. So you can keep the uptime of your potions at 100% by having all the use of medicinal use. So get medicinal use. Get alchemy up, get medicinal use. If you learned anything from the build, this is the one I want you to learn from. This is the key one in the whole build. Now over into provisioning. We are using gourmet because we are running a food. This adds 20 minutes to the duration of any food that we eat. The reason why we run the gourmet is because that way you guys don't have to spend gold to buy it if you guys don't have the stuff to get it. That way your food lasts a lot longer. If you decide to go over to drink, then you would need concierge. 3 out of 3 will give you 20 minutes on your drink if you prefer to run a drink instead. But I prefer to run food on this, and this is what I run on this build to keep my max stats up as high as I can. So now we're going over in the stuff I'm running and wearing. So starting off into the food, I am running the Crown Fortified Meal that increases max health by 4,400, max magicka by 4,100, and max stam by 4,100 for 2 hours and 20 minutes since I'm running concierge, or since I'm running the one that gives me the food buff. But what if I don't have Crown of Fortified Meal? This is on dailies that I get for logins. If you guys don't have it, then the next one I would probably suggest then instead to replace it would be the Longfin Pasty with the melon sauce. This gives you the exact same buffs of max health, max magicka, and max stam for the 2 hours and 20 minutes. Now over in the potions, I am running the Crown Tri Restoration Potion. This restores 9,600 health, 7,500 magicka, and stam. And it also grants us major fortitude, major intellect, and major endurance, which increase our health, magicka, and stam recovery by 20% for the 47 seconds with the 45-second cooldown. This is where that medicinal use comes into play. If you do not have Crown Tri Restoration Potions, I get these in the daily logins. After so many days, you get them. If you cannot get them, then I'd go to Essence of Health or tripods that are crafted. These restore 9,600 health and all that. It gives you the exact same buffs as the Crown Tri Restoration Potions. Essence of Health give you the exact same thing. Granted, though, the health actually lasts for 52 seconds instead of 47 seconds. So this is a buff where you get health recovery for a longer duration than the Crown Tri Restoration pot. Okay, now over into gear. On our front bar, we are running the Ebon Mace with the Crusher Enchantment, because this will reduce the target's physical and spell resistance by 815. So, if we proc this with our other reduce the physical and spell resistance of our other stuff, we can reduce the target's physical and spell resistance up to a whopping 7,500 about. So, when this procs and we have Power Light and we have Pierce Armor on, we can reduce it by 7,400. So basically, that target's physical and spell resistance is already dropped down to 11,000 points of resistance. Very thing to have crushing on your front bar if it's your attacking bar. Trait, we want defending just to keep up our resistance up a little higher than what, so we can actually hit the max amount of resistances. Ebon Mace is part of the Ebon Armory set. So for 2 pieces of this, we get 1,100 max health. 3 pieces, we get another 1,100 max health. And for 4 pieces, we get now 4% healing taken on top of what's our rapid mending of that 8%. We now have 12% in healing taken. Big key thing here is for 5 pieces, we increase the max health by 900 for us and up to 11 other group members within 28 meters. So you're giving your now in a dungeon, you give your group members now more health on their characters. Very good thing to run. For our shield, we are running max stam enchantment on it, because stam is very important as a tank, because you will be using this a lot. And we went with the sturdy to reduce the cost of blocking by 4%, because reducing the cost, the more stam, the lower the stam will drop down, so the more stam ability you have. This is part of the Akaviri Dragon Guard set. For 2 pieces of this, we actually get 126 magic recovery, For 3 pieces, we get 4% healing taken. So again, we now got another one. So now we're at 16% healing taken for us. So we get more healing done to us. And for 4 pieces, we get 1,000 max health. And the big kicker here, 5% reduce the cost of your ultimate abilities by 15%. So, Dawn's Wrath passive, we get 5% drop from there. As being Imperial, we get 3% drop from there. And now we're in the Activary Dragon Guard. We now get a total of 15% more drop. That is why my ultis are only at 100 and 200 to cast them. This is where we're going to get our be able to use our ultis faster, so we can give more utilities to the group. Over on my back bar, we have the Ebon Mace. We went with a weakening enchantment because we want to reduce the weapon damage and spell damage of the target by 147 for 5 seconds when this procs. Granted, it's not a lot, but every little bit of damage you can take away from the enemy doing to your group members will help them survive things. We went with the power trait. Reason we went with the power trait because we have our O snap heal on this bar. So we're going to make our healing done the lower we are even better by having power trait on this to increase our healing done by 45%. This is part of the Ebony Armor set. On our shield, we have Max Stam enchantment. This adds 860 Max Stam, again for Stam stability. We went with the Reinforce trait to just increase our armor value by 16% to keep up our resistance closer to cap. This is part of the Activary Dragon Guard set. Now, over into Monster Helm here, we have the Lord Warden set. We have Max Stam enchantment on it with Infused trait. The reason we want Infused is because this is one of the heavy pieces. Head, chest, and legs are heavy, or bigger pieces, I should say. So that way we get more benefits with it. That's why I went with the Infused trait on the head. If you don't want the Infused on the head, you can put it on the chest or legs if you prefer that. The Lord Warden set. This gives us 1,400 armor. On top of it, when we take damage, we have a 50% chance to summon a Shadow Orb for 10 seconds, increasing the physical and spell resistance of us and our allies within 8 meters by 3,000. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. So, we can stack this with any other abilities that give us major or minor resolve. So our Rune Focus actually can stack up with this. Okay, we have a Mud Crab here. So, taunt him. So on our back bar, we actually have spell resistance at 34,100, physical resistance at 32,300. Now on our front bar, we have 35,200 spell resistance, physical resistance go to 33,400 when the Lord Warden is procced, and we have our Rune Focus on the bottom. Now continuing on with sets that we're wearing. On our chest, we are wearing the Ebony Crasses. We want Max Stam enchantment on this with reinforcing just to get our armor value closer to the cap point. This is part of the Ebony Armor set. On the chest and legs, I am running the Reinforce just to keep the armor enchantment value up because those are your bigger pieces. That's why I will want to run this. Infuse, I would not, like I said, you could put Infuse anywhere else, but I'd probably leave it actually off the chest because the chest is the biggest piece and you will get the better benefit of Reinforce on the chest than anything else. For the shoulders, we are running Max Magicka enchantment on it. Yes, I have Infuse. I would change this trait to actually Sturdy. Sturdy should be on your shoulders, waist, hands, and feet because those are your smaller pieces and it will help with reducing the cost of block as well. This is part of the Lord Warden set. Since it is the monster set, you need head and shoulders. On the waist, we are running Max Stam enchantment with the Sturdy trait. This is part of the Ebony Armor set. On the hands, we are also running the Ebony set. This is a Max Stam enchantment with the Sturdy trait. On the legs, we will run Max Magicka enchantment on it to add more Magicka with the Reinforced trait because this is a bigger piece again, like I said, part of the Ebony Armor set. On the feet, we are running Max Magicka for the Magicka pool with the Sturdy trait. This is part of the Activary Dragon Guard set for us. Over to the accessories now. We are running everything for the Activary Dragon Guard set. On the neck, we are actually running Max Magicka Recovery, just to give us a little bigger Magicka Recovery pool to keep it closer with our Stam. All the traits that we are running on our necklace and our 2 rings will be the Max Health enchantment, or the trait. And then on the rings, we are running stam recovery enchantment just to keep up our stam recovery, because we will need stam recovery for this build. As a tank, recovery in stam is very important. Over into champion points. Starting in the tower, we have 51 points into Warlord, 9 into Sprinter, and 21 into Bash Focus. Warlord reduces the cost of breaking free by 19%, and Sprinter reduces the cost of Sprint by 6%. Bash Focus reduces the cost of Bash by 13%. Over into the Lover, we have Tenacity. Tenacity, we have 43 points into. This restores our fully charged heavy stam attack, since we only have stam weapons, and restores 10% more on top of our other passive. Over into the Shadow, we have 51 points into Tumbling. This reduces the cost of roll dodge by 19%. And for Shadow, we have 50 points into this. This reduces the cost of blocking by 18%, not 18.75 or 19. In ESO, everything is round down, so this is a flat 18%. Over into the blue tree, starting with Apprentice, we have 100 points into Bless. This increases our healing done by 15%. Elfborn, we have 48% points into this. This increases our critical damage and critical heal with magic abilities by 18%. And then we have Spell Erosion, just to increase our spell penetration by 209. Just some flat points to put in. Over into the Astronaut, we have 29 points into Physical Weapon Expert. This will affect our light and heavy attacks with our one-handed shield weapons and abilities. And then we have 46 points into Master in Arms. This increases our damage done with direct damage attacks by 17%. In the Ritual, we have no points into that one. Over into the red tree, starting with the Steed, we have 40 points into Ironclad. This reduces the damage taken from direct damage attacks by 16%. Over into the Lady, we have 43 points into Thick Skin. This reduces the damage taken from damage over time effects by 16%. Now we have Elemental Defender with 56 points. This reduces damage taken from Flame, Frost, Shock, and Magic damage. This reduces damage from any magic-based abilities. Over into Hardy, we have 56 points into this. This reduces damage taken from physical, poison, disease damage by 12%. So Hardy is physical, Elemental is magic. Thick Skin here will stack on top of Hardy and Elemental Defender, because this, if it's anything that had damage from overtime effects or area effects. If we go back to Ironclad, Ironclad is direct damage. This will stack with Hardy and Elemental Defender, because anything that's direct that deals physical, poison, or disease, or direct damage that deals flame, frost, or shock magic will be negated by our Ironclad and then Hardy or Elemental Defender, depending on what it's based off of. Over into the Warrior, we have, or in the Lord, we have 18 points into Bastion. This will increase the effectiveness of our damage shields by 8%. Since we got a couple of them, very good thing to have. And then Heavy Armor Focus. This is while increasing our physical resistance by 1,100 for wearing 5 pieces or more of heavy armor. Helps with keeping up our physical and spell resistance. As you can see in the bottom right hand corner, my champion points is only 689. I'm not all the way maxed out yet to 810, but I still do very well in vet content nonetheless. So there you have it for the Guardian of Light build for the Greymoor patch. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.